And
Just like not connecting any.
we get the time. Shall we, are we recording?
We are recording.
With that, I will call to order the March 17th, 2025 meeting of the Clackamas Fire District 1 Board of Directors. At Clackamas Fire, we're always here for you. We value our people and the people we serve. Our focus is establishing teams, trust, empowerment, accountability, mindset, and service. If you are attending in person, please sign in on the sheet next to the door. The regular monthly meeting of Clackamas Fire District's Board of Directors will now come to order at 6 p.m. per ORS 192-610-52. 5 p.m. Sorry, I forget which meeting this is. Per 5 p.m. Thank you. Per ORS 192-610 to 192-690. Per ORS 192-650. This meeting is being recorded. Video recording of this meeting will be placed on the Clackamas Fire website. If you would please stand and join me and face the flag. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Chief Brown, are there any changes to the agenda?
We do have one change. Chief Dieters went home sick, so we will not have a R1C report out.
Sorry to hear that Chief Dieters doesn't feel good.
And then for the B1, I will take his place as well as the now.
Oh, on B1 on the other side.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. All right. Does any board member have any, next thing is approval of minutes for the regular board meeting on February 24th, 2025. Does any board member have any comments, changes to share? No. If there are no changes, the minutes for the regular board meeting on February 24th, 2025 stand approved as written. The first typo.
Thank you.
We'll find together in a minute.
Oh, great.
I'll now call for statements from citizens regarding district business. Shelby, did anybody sign up for public comment?
They did not,
Okay,
not online.
anybody online? And nobody signed up here? If anyone wanted to sign up, but the sign up sheet's over there. If someone online, you can raise hand function at the bottom of your screen. If you're calling in, you can select *9 to indicate a raised hand and *6 to unmute and mute. Each person will have up to 3 minutes to share their question or comment. Please state your name at the beginning of the question or comment. Seeing we don't have anybody, we're up to now thing 6. Civil Service Commissioner interviews, which says, we will not conduct interviews for 3 Civil Service Commissioner positions. I've been waiting all day for that one.
Thank you.
I kind of thought we ought to tell them before they show up, but hey. 2 in 1 time?
I blame it
She's still
on
on
me.
vacation.
Vacation.
Still on vacation.
That's on me.
So.
No, actually, she worked too hard for the award ceremony.
Thank you,
That's
Tom.
probably it.
Worn out.
Good save, Thomas. Nicely done. Nick, you're gonna take this one for Steve?
Yeah, I'll take this one. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
As you'll see in the board packet, there's a staff report. Staff's requesting the Clackamas Fire District Board of Directors interview and appoint 3 applicants to the Clackamas Fire District Civil Service Commission for a 4-year term. Currently, there are 3 vacancies and 4 applicants. One of the applicants is an incumbent and had surgery today. And so was unable to make it, but wrote his letter to you with his desire to continue to run for another 4 years. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have, otherwise I'll turn it over to Nanette.
Oh, you're kind of. Yeah, under the bus.
Oh, full force.
I see
You
that.
took everything that I was supposed to say.
Did I? Well, I apologize.
I think she can handle it.
Dieters isn't here, so he's gotta take
I
somebody.
gotta take somebody's statements.
So. Go ahead, Nanette.
So we ran a process for the Civil Service Commission. we received, like she said, the 4 applicants. I have 3 of them here today. So if you're ready, we can have them step out and we can begin interviews.
Okay,
You call them in one at a time.
we'll have to explain this. We technically, because this is a public meeting, we can't require that you leave. We always ask the interview people to leave the room just in fairness, so everybody kind of has a fresh shot at it. So if you're willing to do that, we'll have Neff take you out and bring you in one by one.
Does that work for you guys?
If that works.
Thanks.
The next choice in the first victim.
Shelby's order.
Or follow Shelby's order, why we all could do that.
And
Thanks,
do you
Chris.
have any questions for me before we get started?
What, yeah, once you close the door, well, no, probably not for the net.
You can ask me.
Yeah, we'll just discuss for a second and then have you bring one in.
Yeah, just.
Thanks, yeah.
Chris, do we want to do this roundtable thing where we all use ask a question, or you want to just take care of it?
What did you say?
Just have Chris ask. all
Ask the questions.
Instead of,
Just have him ask all of them instead of us doing the round thing.
We've done both ways. Except Chris.
Got a preference?
I would say individually.
Yeah.
You want to go around, okay. Okay,
Yeah.
that works.
Okay. Start at the left end. Okay.
You ready?
Did you have a order set up for us?
I just alphabetically, so, Mr. Bronner would be first. candidate.
Okay.
It's what?
Scott.
Everyone.
Oh, goodness gracious, we don't even say yeah. You can say no.
That's perfect.
Thank you, sir.
Sit down.
You're so important.
So,
Brought you up here today.
you're supposed to start with first, I'd like to thank all the little people. Well, thank you for coming in. Scott, what we do is we've got, basically we have 4 questions. And we ask everybody the same questions, so it's nice and fair and we can find out a little something about you, which will be a crapshoot, because you know how these things are.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Thomas, would you ask the first question, please?
Scott, please tell us about yourself and your interest in serving as a civil service commissioner.
Well, I'll go back, so, I started off in EMS and fire in about 1982 as a volunteer. And worked for an ambulance company for a while, and then, started in the fire service as a paid firefighter paramedic. Retired 8 years ago from 12 Valley Fire and Rescue. Raised a couple of really good boys. Currently both firefighters, one for Clackamas Fire, one for 12 Valley Fire and Rescue. Very proud of them. And I've always felt like this really need to just give back to the public. And I enjoy being on different kind of committees. I currently, am the director for, Hoffman Excavation for Health and Safety. And I sit on a couple of different, boards. I sit on the Oregon Impact Board, for police. It's just a, nonprofit unpaid position, that kind of delegates, funds for the police department in the Oregon, different police departments. And we meet once every 2 months. I sit on a couple of other boards for safety, one for AGC, which is Associated General Contractors, another one for NUCA, which is Northwest Excavation and Gas Companies, that just to make sure we're keeping our employees safe. Plan on retiring again in another couple of years, but I really enjoy being part of that public system and giving back to the public. I sat on the executive board for Local 1660 and the Health Trust, while I was part of Palm Valley Fire and Rescue, and peer counselor, which I still do for TBFNR for retirees. Married and the boys, and we live out in Sandy, so have a bunch of chickens and property.
I'm just curious, Chris, I have a question. Are you related to a Groner family who has been very prominently active in the Clackamas?
No,
No, you are not.
Tell us more about these eggs you had.
Well, the chickens are only about 6 weeks old, so about 7 months to make
Okay,
a deal.
Marilyn, you want to ask the next question?
Okay, Scott, please summarize your understanding of the primary roles and responsibilities of the Civil Service Commission.
So my understanding of the Civil Service Commission is that, you validate lists. You were part of the, hiring and promotional processes throughout the fire district. Nothing to do with operations or fire stations in general. Really, it's about, making sure that the system is fair for everybody that applies for positions and promotions.
Okay. What experience, skills, and abilities do you have that will support your role as a commissioner?
Well, I've been in public service since 1982. Certainly I was raised that way. My dad was a deputy federal marshal when I was a kid growing up, so a lot of experience with just dealing with the public and dealing with public employees. I am the human resources person also, so I do the hiring and letting go of people and promoting them to different positions in the current job I'm in now, as well as I take care of all the workers' compensation claims and insurance claims that we have. So very familiar with how both public and private work together.
Thank you.
Got anything else you'd like to add?
But really, I really think that, having educated and people that understand the fire service is really important, especially when you're dealing with civil service. There's a lot of things that happen that I think having the background in the fire service, I understand both sides of that coin. Being in the public sector now, I didn't realize how different it was actually until I retired and spent the last 7.5 years working for private companies. But I really enjoy that part, and I'm looking forward to, hopefully helping the fire district keep succeeding with good candidates.
Thank you. Okay, with that, what do we normally do?
Tell me to get out.
Yeah.
Normally we'll just bring the next one and then.
Yeah, unless you wanna hang around and watch a meeting that's, kinda like every board meeting you've ever been in.
Yeah, it's your choice. You can sit and wait and then you guys make a decision because we're gonna have to make a vote, or you can leave and Annette will contact
Yeah,
you.
and that could call me. The boys just got home from snowmobiling.
Oh, I love that.
I want to make sure that they
Yeah.
didn't break anything.
Absolutely.
See what the pyramid looks like?
Yeah.
Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks, Scott.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you. You guys take care.
Thanks for coming in. We appreciate it, Scott.
Well, we'll go from there.
You want a little break or do you want me to bring the next one in?
Yeah, just do the next one.
And then Chris, if we could just offer every candidate the same exact, then we're.
Yeah.
Yeah, right here. That's what-
Yeah, that's a good shit.
What we have 4 questions. Each of us will ask you a question. We kind of have the same set, so we ask everybody, you've probably been through this whole thing before.
Yep.
So we want to keep it fair, so we'll ask you the 4 questions and then we'll meet, probably after you guys head off, we'll talk about it and figure out what we're doing.
Certainly.
Thomas, you want to get us started, please?
Sure. Please tell us about yourself and your interest in serving as a civil service commissioner for Clackamas Fire.
My name is Lee Merrick, and I've spent most of my life here. I was born in California, but came up here when I was about 6. So I've lived in the boring fire district growing up, and we were always proud of our exciting, boring fire department. And so that was what they told us when we did our field trips. I have 5 kids. My oldest are 26-year-old twin daughters. Greatest thing I've ever done that I wouldn't wish on anyone. I have 3 younger kids, down to 14. I went to school, I met my wife. We moved back up here and I live just outside of Happy Valley. I'm a controller at a large construction company, an asphalt company here in Portland, 35 million plus or minus. I'm a certified management accountant, and I've been an accountant for quite a few years. I was thinking when I first started school, I was talking to my mom about this a couple of months ago, and when I first started school, I thought about what I wanted to do for an occupation, and my mom reminded me that my first choice was to be a fireman. And I had written an essay, a 1-sentence essay that said, when I grow up, I want to be a fireman. And then I did the illustrations and went with it, and she found it for me. It was kind of cute. But more importantly, I am interested because I've always been a huge supporter of the fire department and the police department. I give equal time. But I believe that the taxpayers, that the citizens are also strong supporters of the fire department. And I want to bring the skills that I have to the fire department and to be as helpful as I can in helping make the fire department the best that it can possibly be. And I've not been a fireman. I don't profess to be an expert in fire science, but I am very experienced in civil service as a volunteer. I've never been employed by any government agency, but I am very interested in contributing what I have to the fire district.
Everyone, you want to do the next one?
Lee, would you please summarize your understanding of the primary roles and responsibilities of the civil service?
Certainly. In essence, in the research I've done, I had this enjoyable reading of civil service rules over the weekend and read that twice. But the gist of that for me is quite straightforward. The board of directors oversees anything that has a budgetary impact. And the Civil Service Commission, established by statute, oversees the training, the hiring, the what else did I write down? The removals, the discipline of officers, classified officers, and other incidents of employment. In addition, it ensures that there's equal opportunity for those who would like to be employed by the fire department. It establishes a uniform plan of classification, which I really appreciate. Instead of having 10,000 jobs, you can narrow it down to 25 or perhaps a little more. And then, of course, to oversee the recruitment and the advancement of individuals so that we can make this the best place, the most attractive place for people to come and be able to work.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, next question, Lee. What experience, skills, and abilities do you have that will support your role as a commissioner?
I have been involved as a volunteer for many years. I was on a couple different budget committees, but most importantly, I spent 12 years on the North Clackamas School Board, and that kept me quite busy. And I was chairman for a couple of years. And with 5 kids, of course, I was interested in helping the school district be as good as it could be. And I think the important thing there is that I've learned how to work well in committees and commissions. And even though I don't promise to agree with everyone, one thing I do bring is that my ability to earn the respect of everyone and to hear every viewpoint out, because I am a firm believer that if I sit in a room with someone whom I completely disagree with on a particular issue, in half an hour, I think we can come up with a solution that can be accepted by a vast majority of the populace, simply by setting aside emotions, setting aside being open-minded. I think that's essential, and that's really how the founding fathers created this government. No one gets to be the king, so we have a 5-member board, we have 5-member civil service commission. We work together to come up with the best solution possible.
Thank you. Jane?
Lee, is there anything else you'd like to add?
Certainly, briefly. In my comparison of what is involved as a member of the Civil Service Commission, compared to what I did on the school board, essentially on the school board, I was doing both. I was doing not only all the budgetary impacts, but I also oversaw the importance of setting standards in place for teachers and setting job titles in place, job duties, descriptions, and did both of those. So I bring that already to the table. The one thing that I want to mention is in my research, I went to ORS 242 and looking at the qualifications, want to make sure that I met all the rules. But the one rule that stood out to me was from 1957, 1959 perhaps. And it says, and I'm quoting, "The persons appointed shall be known to believe in the principles of civil service." And I will bring that. I am a firm, solid believer in civil service. Even though I've never been employed by a government agency, I have spent many years involved in government agencies, helping where I can as a citizen. I don't profess to know everything about it, but I do assure you that I will do all the homework that I need to do to be completely prepared to give this commission the viewpoint of a member of the public and a taxpayer, and to render a value judgment, not an expertise in fire science, but a value judgment on what I think that the taxpayers find most important. That's what I commit to bring to this position. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Lee. Appreciate you coming in.
Thank you.
You're basically, you're welcome to stay if you want to sit through a board meeting. Otherwise, you're welcome to head on home and enjoy your family, and we'll discuss, make a decision, and have the net, give everyone a call a little later.
Very good. I think I'll come back in and enjoy being on this side.
Thanks, Lee. Thank you. We're interviewing, obviously, we're interviewing everybody, even though Nanette said we're not, or excuse me. Shelby knows not.
We're gonna put that down.
We have 4 questions. We're asking everybody the same thing, and we're kind of running through the interview, having you tell us something about yourself, and then we'll make a decision and get a hold of you later. So first, I'm not even gonna try your name.
Okay.
I'll let you introduce yourself.
Okay, well, my name is Marshall Paholski.
Is it Marsha Pawlowski?
Marshall Paholski, yes. It's a French first name and a Czech last name. I've got Western and Eastern Europe covered here.
There's a border incursion there somewhere. Perfect. Thomas, would you start us off?
Marsha, yes, please. Please introduce yourself to us, a little bit about yourself
Okay,
and your interest
okay,
in serving as a civil service commissioner
Okay.
for Clackamas Fire.
okay, thank you. Well, as I said, my name is Marshall Paholski. I live in Happy Valley. And I recently retired from the Bonneville Power Administration. So I spent 30 years there. I have, prior to that, I was in the military. So I spent 5 years on active duty, and then the rest of my time in the military, an additional 18 years in the Army Reserves. And so I've had an entire lifetime of civil service. And so I feel like that's just a part of who I am. So I joined the Army when I was 17, And I've had just an amazing career in civil service. Right now, I sit on the chair of the planning commission for Happy Valley, and I'm also on the board for the Happy Valley Parks and Rec. So I'm an individual who really believes in serving their community. And now that I've decided to make a choice and retire from the Bonneville Fire Administration, I wanted to find other areas to be able to give back to my community. So when I saw this position available, I thought that I would be a good candidate for that. I've spent a lifetime with the federal government, and so I understand how government works. I've been a supervisor, a manager, and executive for the past 23 years at BPA. And so I understand how those kinds of systems work. So I felt as though I could use my expertise and be a good candidate for this position.
Thank you.
Rochelle, would you please summarize your understanding of the primary roles and responsibilities of the civil service?
Okay, so the Civil Service Commission is designed to review the standards and the regulations when it comes to the hiring and the recruitment of individuals who are part of the civil service for the Clackamas Fire District. They review applicants, they review any demotions, promotions, any adverse actions that might come. They often work on the appeals, if anyone is to appeal a decision. And they, I think they work to maintain the standards of individuals that are looking for positions and to create fair and open systems when hiring individuals.
Oh, okay. Marshall, what experience, skills, and abilities do you have that will support your role as a commissioner?
So as I said, I worked for the federal government. I've been a supervisor myself, and I understand the laws and regulations when it comes to the hiring of individuals. I'm very experienced with the Merit System Protection Board, which that has replaced what the Civil Service Commission was for the federal government. So that had been replaced I think it's in the 1979. So I understand that there is rules and regulations that govern the hiring of individuals. And I'm sure for the state of Oregon, it's based on the Oregon Revised Statutes, so it's quite similar. I also have experience with the unions, so negotiating with the unions. I've had both union employees on the hourly basis and then union employees that were office workers too. So I know how to negotiate and how contracting negotiations work. And I've developed organizations from the ground up. So when it comes to the classification of jobs, I have worked with that with the Office of Personnel Management on what are certain standards for certain types of jobs and how you post jobs, how you classify them, and then how you go through the recruitment and discernment for qualified individuals.
Thank you. Jay, you want to bring the last one?
Michelle, anything else you'd like to add?
I'd just like to say that I'm a very fair individual, and I truly believe in public service. And so I believe that individuals should have a good representation. And I think not just bringing experience, but somebody who is dedicated to your community and wanting to bring people into an organization like the Clackamas Fire District, and to make sure that we have individuals that represent our community well, and also to help promote public service. I kind of grew up in public service, and so I'd like to contribute to people wanting to participate in that as a career.
Thank you. We appreciate you coming in. We're going to make some discussion here and we'll make a decision and we'll have Nanette give you all a call.
All right, thanks.
Thank you so much. We appreciate your interest.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Okay.
Chris,
What?
just a side note, I was sitting here and thinking, I should be acting like I'm in a Senate
Just wait a
hearing.
second.
I have to give a total blank face, no smiling.
I'm talking to you.
That could be it.
Okay,
So, can I say one thing before, and then I'll be, it's just the one candidate that could not be here. The incumbent,
Yes,
this is,
comment.
yeah, the surgery was out of his control.
Is there any reason that we should not reappoint Bill?
There is not. Bill has done an amazing job and he has a desire to continue.
yeah, he's been wonderful.
Yeah,
So that kind of puts us down to figuring out two out of the
Yeah.
other three.
Yeah, he is kind of a slam dunk in his,
Yeah, I think Bill's willing to continue. I'm
Yeah.
glad to have him on there. He's made.
Sure. How
Thomas,
do
let's
we,
start with you.
okay. I feel with Lee Marvin, is that his name?
Merrick.
Merritt, Lee Merritt, yeah. He, I knew him from the school district and he has been really quite committed and I got a long time committed and I feel he will be one of my choice. And then Scott from the Sandy area, we should have a good representation. That would be my next choice.
Carolyn?
Well, I would concur with Thomas on as to Lee. I think he has the background and the interest of, in dealing with the Civil Service Commission. I would vary with him is that I would, go with, Marshall. She's a veteran. She has civil service experience and that she has been in the civil service. It's been on her. So she's a participant in it, which I think is important. And while, I mean, it's nice to say we should include Scott because he lives in Sandy. On the other hand, from my perspective, the people that are paying our taxes, our taxpayers, are the ones that should be serving on the Civil Service Commission. Maybe someday Sandy will be taxpayers here, but they aren't now. And so I would favor our taxpayers who have a vested interest in our commission over someone from Sandy. But he's otherwise qualified, certainly, that isn't the question. They're all qualified. It's really amazing that we get so many qualified people that want this job. I'm humbled by the response, and the quality of the response. Yeah.
Bless you.
So those are the two I would go with.
Okay. Jay, what do you think?
I like all of them. Can we open another spot up? I kind of lean into, Marilyn's, discussion, I really do. I like all three of them, but I like Lee, I like Michelle, I like the fact that she's a vet, that she comes from BPA, which, we know BPA has its challenges. The fact that she was able to navigate that through retirement, that says a lot about her right there. So, and being a vet, that's huge, working with the federal government. So obviously she can work through active duty and be a reserve for 18 years and work for BPA. She definitely got some good spot to be able to do that. So, yeah, and I like Lee. So I think I have to go with Lee and Michelle.
Let me see, I was thinking of it, because Jim sent me a note of what he thought. And what did he say? Scott would be good to have a resident of Sandy on the commission, and he has prior fire service experience. Bill's been a good commissioner. And Lee Merrick has been active in the community on the national and the Clackamas School Board. So he's right there with us, with Thomas, but and then same thing, I guess. I was leaning more towards Scott and Lee. I don't know, because Marilyn makes a good point about the taxpayers, Is Sandy gonna join us? I hope so. Have they yet? No. I mean, that is a good point.
One of my argument is, Chris, Scott being there, when the election comes, he would be a candidate representing the district, and he's already involved in the district, that have his community to connect with fire district.
Well, the thing, Scott also has a whole lot that he's already doing. So, I mean, that doesn't mean he should be discounted, that it,
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
kind of like spread
Yeah.
the opportunities around
Oh,
instead of the
sure.
same, you know how it is, sometimes it's always the same people that get appointed to every commission, because they apply and they're just, oh, I recognize Scott, okay, we'll just do it with Scott. So, that is, he's busy, and well, again, it's not a consideration, but I have some little teeny reservations about having the father of one of our firefighters making civil service decisions. There's kind of a conflict of interest there.
Yeah, it doesn't help.
Not that
I
we
mean,
couldn't be fair.
we're unanimous on legal, so that puts us right there, and then it's a matter of.
For clarity, you're unanimous on Bill as well,
On
right?
Lee and Bill.
Lee and Bill so far. Okay.
And. Marilyn's made two good points.
She always does.
Hell, I give points when they're awarded, and I want points when they're taken, and she's right on both of them. So, it looks like if everyone's okay with that, it would be Lee and Marshall and Bill Conway.
Can you live with that?
No, it's fine. It's Marshall.
Marshall.
Is the Marshall?
Marshall. I'm confused
Michelle,
now.
but
It's
with
like-
R.
It's like Michelle, but with a starts March, so March, but Marshall,
Marshall, yeah.
which is what I was gonna go for, I just wasn't taking a stab at that.
Let's have the name.
Wowski.
Are you okay? Are you comfortable to where if there's any of the candidates in the lobby that we can bring them in from this point forward?
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah, if they wanna sit through a meeting.
This is a public meeting. We can go
The
discuss.
thing is, you can't really add, people are always good about it, but yeah.
I think Lisa wanted to stay.
I think he said it might have, he wanted to sit on the other side.
Yeah, he was gonna- He was gonna.
There it is.
Yeah, there it is.
Sit and watch. Okay, do we need to vote?
Yep.
Is that?
Yes.
Then I would entertain a motion to reappoint Bill Conway, appoint Lee Merrick, and appoint Marshall Blonsky.
Walowski.
There you go. That was good, Thomas. I like that one.
To.
Say it really fast so you don't know what you're saying, is that what it is?
Second.
Shelby, could you call the roll and clean up whatever spelling we did?
Yes.
No, we've not conducted the interviews.
Jay,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes,
Thomas,
Yes.
Marilyn.
Yes.
thank you.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Lee, welcome to the Civil Service Commission. Thank you. We have a nice little initiation ceremony, you won't mind a bit.
Yeah, put them on.
He has gone through several, right?
Danny.
So Nanette will reach out to the other two candidates
Perfect.
that aren't here. Yeah, they're the three candidates, sorry, and
Yes.
and notify them and thank all of them for their participation.
Thank you, Nanette.
Yes.
Okay, we're back to
B2.
B2, B2, okay. See, that's why I was lost, I didn't have the script in front of me.
Now you do.
That's why I didn't know what to do. Okay.
Nice experience.
I heard that, I'm sitting right here, sitting right here. I don't see you there. I'm easy to miss, I'm wearing my camouflage socks. Okay, next up, we have request board approval of 3-year trustee term renewal to the Clackamas Emergency Services Foundation Board, brought to us by President Jerry Kearney.
Thank you, Mr. President and members of the board. I come to you tonight for exactly the reason that the president said. To request that you reappoint Jasmine Schneider to the Board of Trustees of the Emergency Services Foundation. Jasmine is a ball fire, best way I can describe her. She's also full of ideas and innovations. She's going to get involved, she's going to get her hands dirty, and she's going to speak up. And for that reason, I'm standing here asking you to please reappoint her.
Perfect. Anyone have any questions for Jerry?
I like Jasmine, she does a great job, she does a great job. I'm
How
glad- I'm
long
glad
has she
she's
been on the
sticking around.
board, Jerry?
Pardon?
How long has she been on the board?
I was trying to remember if it's 3 or 6 years. But I'm actually, I have to say, having opened my mouth too wide that first time, I believe it is 6 years, and the reason I'm saying that is she's been involved in at least 3 dinner auctions. And we didn't have any during COVID, we didn't have any last year, so that would have been 3 before COVID.
Yeah, she's great.
And just for the record, she doesn't live in our fire district. She lives in Canby, where she's also a volunteer and where she also runs their fundraising activities.
Is it Colt or Canby?
I think it's cold.
I thought it was Canby, but you may be right, chief. I'm not,
I think it's cold.
I've never visited her home, so I don't know.
Yeah, same.
Okay. All right then, do I hear a motion for the board to approve a 3-year trustee renewal of Jasmine Schneider to the Clackamas Emergency Services Board?
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Shelby, would you please call the roll?
Jay,
Yes.
Chris,
Yes.
Thomas,
Yes.
Marilyn.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Motion carries. Jerry, thanks for coming in.
No problem.
Thanks,
Do
Jerry.
you mind if I leave?
No,
No, not at all.
I have to bring Emergency Services Foundation funds out to BC 302.
that's more important than watching us.
Thanks, Jerry.
Thanks, Jerry, appreciate it. Now, does any board member have any commenting committee or liaison reports to share?
Oh, we had a Gladstone. Fire district. IGA.
Yes, agency.
We had IGA with Gladstone. We are getting more and more, there are some new city councillors. First time, I think, or second time.
The same, that we're in
No, Luke,
yeah, he's been a city councilor before, he's just new to the
I
interagency.
know, but
committee.
new to the IGA.
Yes,
Yeah, and I felt very useful of our time being there with, getting some lot of insights about what's the rumbling as well as the compliments from the city. So it was very useful time with Mindy and Luke, right? They are the current members of the AGA.
yes.
You know, we have a joint work session coming up on 22nd of April.
Okay.
That's what I have, sir.
Anyone else have anything?
We had I'm for the OFDDA, I'm the conference committee chair. And we had our first meeting a couple days ago, and the big thing is we're looking for a keynote speaker. Everything else is going really good, but we're kind of hoping for a keynote speaker, so if anybody has any ideas.
What's the subject you're looking for?
Keynote speaker for the,
Or what's the topic or?
yeah, well, it's obviously something fire service related, depending on what somebody wants to talk about, specifically targeted towards elected officials.
Okay.
We have some people that are keynotes that have expressed interest, but their forte is more towards line firefighters and chief officers. We're kind of looking for something that's more towards elected officials, so, but yeah, we got lots of time. So.
Okay.
The other thing too, I just throw out there, is Coach Dieter's not here, and I can talk about it. We're having one of our topic is alternate funding, alternate funding sources. As everybody knows, one of the struggles with some of the OSHA rules and stuff that's coming out and the radios, there's a couple of fire districts that just dealing with OSHA and new turnouts and dealing with the new radio systems coming in. And take up to half the budgets of some of these smaller fire districts around the state. And there's literally fire districts that are saying that if they have to follow these rules that are coming out in the next 3 years, they're going to go out of business. So they're looking for alternate funding ideas. And so I talked to leaders about maybe doing something like Chris and the group did at the conference, just as a talking point, but anyway. So it's dealing with these smaller districts. They're actually, some of them don't think they're gonna make it. It's that bad. Yeah, so.
Okay. Brings us to OB2, board informational updates. Any board member have any informational updates or comments to share? No, we just did that. Now we're up to informational only. R1A, Office of the Fire Chief. Steve Brown will now share an update from the Office of the Fire Chief.
Awesome, Chris, thank you so much. Very short for me today, just want to highlight a couple of items. We have Chuck Carlick and Eric Idom retiring at the end of the month. Chuck has been with the organization for 25 years, and Eric, Dan, is that about 25 as well? Close to it.
Yeah.
Both did a phenomenal job for the organization, and truly excited for them, the next step in their lives. Clay Buford in February retired as well, Captain Buford out of Station 6. And he retired at the end of February. So excited for all three of these members and being able to focus in on family and the next step in their life. So
I just know Buford did, he cut his hair.
did he really?
Yeah, he cut it off and I think he donated or sold it or something, but yeah, he's got a
that's awesome.
haircut like this.
That's awesome. I didn't see that. As you all attended the awards banquet on Friday, just an amazing job by Tracy and Shelby. A lot of hard work to get that set up. And we had a really good showing, 180-ish. So really stoked about that. It was an awesome night being able to celebrate our people and the amazing things that they do. And then in true fashion, I'm gonna steal something that Dan's probably gonna talk about. But we had as part of our professional development for strategic goal and strategic plan. Is talking about onboarding and preparing the next generation of company officers. And we brought in some outside training, Castros, it's called Calm the Chaos. And every single company officer has been through the 32-hour
The
online portion of this training, and then we brought him in for a 2-day workshop. We invited the metro area, and we had about 100 people show up to that. And then we had a 3-day train the trainer course, which was all of internal individuals, 18 internal battalion chiefs and captains, and a couple lieutenants that went through the train the trainer portion. So really excited about that. We've done a really good job in our over the years of focusing on EMS and life-saving efforts there, extinguishment, ventilation and surge. The last phase of this is preparing our company officers for incident command to run major incidents. So this was a big on taking from training, and I'm just super proud of them and all they did to prepare for this and had some phenomenal training. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Would you have any questions or comments for the chief? No, looks like you're off the hook.
Thank you.
Next up, Office of Strategic Services, Assistant Chief Stewart will now share an update from the Office of Strategic Services.
Sounds great. Thank you for the opportunity this evening. A few things, and probably tying into things that Chief Nealon would share, since we kind of jointly get to work with Morgan West. A couple pieces of, again, this week he's doing the INT training, another 300 ICS 300 class between us and 12 valued other agencies, which is fantastic. We actually had a INT for the the Blue Heron Fire, kind of an after action review this morning. He did a great job running it. We kind of walked through from when the incident started to the INT activation, how those functions ran, and then how that closed out. I think we all appreciate the time and energy that he put into bringing it together. I think we got some good lessons good wins and good lessons learned out of it, things to continue to improve on, and we'll do so. And then last week, he also hosted all of our battalion chiefs last week at the 400 building that was recently renovated, kind of at our simulation lab, doing wildfire training with Brent Olson. So all the BCs got to run through some of that with him, which is fantastic. And then moving on to IT, we hit a milestone that we've been working towards for a while, and we moved NetMotion, which is our platform that allows essentially a number of our business functions as well, but critically allows our CAD to get to the NDCs in the rig. And so that was one that had taken a chunk of planning, a chunk of working with ESD or Clackamas Educational School Service District. And I really appreciate Clackamas ESD jumping up early in the day, so we could get kind of during a lower call volume in case there were any challenges, because we did know and expect some downtime. So they begged for us, which is greatly appreciated. The work got completed ahead of schedule in terms of outage time, which was fantastic. I believe that's all working appropriately. So that was a fantastic benchmark for us. A couple pieces, I guess on a higher piece of legislation. So I worked with the Oregon Fire Chiefs on legislative activities, and we've been tracking about 406 bills, about 150 actively, and we're looking forward to Friday, which is the deadline for work sessions to be posted, and so that'll start calling those off. But I wanted to highlight a couple that we were interested in, so that we spend time on, because we've touched things on drones and interfering with emergency operations. We've touched on some land use and expansion of farm use, exclusive farm use land on the east side, and working with our partners on those. But a couple pieces that are coming up, which are notable, would be, or that we've worked on. There's a couple bills for volunteer firefighter compensation, or not compensation, excuse me, tax credit. So it's been actively in support of those. We'll see where those go. We've had one that has made it through work session that has not moved on to the next house yet, or to the next chamber. And then two big ones, forest land classification, which the bill should drop Wednesday or Thursday this week. And it is a piece that affects our revenue, where ODF overlaps our territory and if they have classified lands. So we've been working hard on that piece, and that will be a large focus for the next probably 3 months until signing die. The other ones coming up that I have not reviewed fully yet, there's 3 bills related to Senate Bill 762 modifications. There's been a lot of consternation about the wildfire hazard map, even with the reboot. So each of the bills out there, I think, will likely repeal that map. In anticipation of the potential for that to be repealed, the governor has suspended any work on appeals that people may have submitted. She encouraged that people continue to submit appeals if their land was affected, and I think we have a small handful of lots that are affected. But what she did not want to do is walk down through an appeals process, potentially have people incur legal fees or whatever it may be with something that may get resolved by the legislature this session. And then I will end this portion on one that I'm excited about, which is House Bill 3929. It just dropped today, and this is one that came out of a court case in Washington. You've seen Jeff Griffin repeatedly talk about firefighter behavioral health as well as other staff. So this bill, House Bill 3929, closes a gap that came to light in Washington, which is having privileged conversations with peer supporters, and the intent to protect those as part of someone's mental health care. And I think that's decidedly important, given that if people are not confident in that being protected, that they may be less apt to be open or seek the assistance necessary. So that one just dropped today. We'll see where that goes. And then lastly, we took advantage of a return of work program that the state of Oregon offers called the Employee at Injury Program. And it provides some incentive and some monetary, I guess, capital to provide equipment or tools or software in order to provide opportunities for individuals to return back to work. So we took advantage of that within our drone program. and we leveraged the state dollars to purchase a new Matrice 30T, which stands for thermal drone. So this is a much higher grade drone than we had previously, which we essentially got for half cost of the state contributions. So this has a longer flight time, goes up to about 41 minutes. Lasts in more sustained winds, so this goes up to 26 miles per hour that can resist. And once we get it up and we get our pilots trained on it, we're looking to add a drop system on it, so we'll be able to either drop a lead line across a river for ropes, or we'll be able to drop inflatable life vest and those types of things. So we'll be exploring those options, but it's a high quality aircraft, plus the thermal sensor on it's far above what we currently have on our others. So I'm excited to have that. Appreciate Kevin Schurter's work, who led the effort as part of this program to select the platform, purchase the platform, and get it up and ready for implementation. So happy to answer any questions.
Good. Okay, Meryl.
So Brian, what is the thought on the proposal for retirement reduction date to 50 for firefighters?
So, yeah, so Senate Bill, I believe that's 902. So Senate Bill 902, I'd have to go back into my notes, has a few implications to it. I think to overall cost increases for employers that have police and fire employees, I believe potential is 0.47% increase, which I think equal to about, let's see, it says 6.3 million across all those employers for the biennium. So we have not taken a position as OFCA yet, but we're aware of it. We'll be talking about it at our meeting on Wednesday. So I guess a couple of meetings that we have recurring that I host. So Monday we host, or whatever, we host a meeting with our fire service partners, which includes State Council firefighters, OFMA, OSFM, and so on, to kind of catch up, talk about the week ahead. And then on Wednesdays, OFCA enters a meeting with the Special Districts Association of Oregon. They have a fire district charter this year, which is new. But so we have a joint legislative program with them, and this is on our agenda to talk about on Wednesday. So I'll have.
I mean, the numbers you give sound small, but when applied, they are not. They're
No.
huge. The paper said it was like $11 million, at least. And I don't know if that was per what, but part of my perception is part of the problems that occurred is that you go in the legislature and then people just say, oh, what's another 0.5%? It's no big deal, quit whining. And things have to come to a stop. We cannot afford any additional benefits of that nature. I mean, and because their forecasts don't include how much extra people are going to be making, because whatever that number is today is going to be greater tomorrow.
Mm-hmm.
And I also was amazed to read that Carl happens to be head of the OFDBA. It's in the paper this morning.
So good for him. He's everywhere. He's everywhere. Just as a thought, the 11% that you might be thinking of, maybe from, I believe it's Senate Bill 751, which is a different enhancement to PERS. So that one has a small tweak, which the Oregon Fire Service would rally in opposition of this one change, which would be looking at changing the definition of firefighter. Everyone likes the definition that's in, I think it's 835. But within that bill, there's two other pieces. One that establishes a task force on retirement healthcare until age 65, a number of people within it. And then the other piece is an improvement or enhancement, I guess, in multiplier for police and fire under this quote new definition that would go from 1.8% per year to 2% per year. That's the 11% increase that might be specific to, and I think, I can't remember the fiscal on that one, but so.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for Brian? Okay, R1D, CFO Whitaker will now share an update from the Office of Financial Services.
Okay, good evening. Just to piggyback on that point, I'll just add that, you know, our PERS contribution rates a decade ago, 2015, 2017, were 12.45%. July 1st, they will go up to 27.83%. So those percentages do add up and compound over time. And you know, 1% increase at our current payroll is roughly about $500,000 annually in additional costs for the district. So definitely something we're keeping an eye on. Okay, so for my update, wanted to give a brief update on the facilities projects you guys approved last month. So they have started the demolition and construction at the training center. So that started earlier this month, and Station 12 is supposed to kick off with their demolition later this month. So those are in progress. The third project, the training warehouse, won't kick off until later in the summer. They want to not have two projects going on at once at the training center. So those will kind of be in sequential order there. We had a new academy start this month. So just wanted to give a shout out to our logistics team that had put together all the uniforms and materials and equipment for that academy of 15. So that took up a lot of their time in February. Bargaining update, as you all know, we went through the impasse process and are now headed towards arbitration. The arbitrator was selected, and arbitration is now scheduled for May 28th and May 29th. So that's fairly soon as a timeline. If we stick to that and the arbitrator sticks to having it done with having the decision within 30 days of the hearing, then we'd be finished right around the end of the fiscal year. Other than that, my finance report for the month is included starting on page 11 of your packet. The one thing I would highlight this month would be the very last page of that report, page 16 of your packet, where I did include our annual notice from the county assessor on their expectation of our AV growth for next fiscal year, which you can see there. They estimate that between 2.75% and 3.25%. You may recall in last year's adopted budget, my forecast had assumed that our 25-26 AV growth would be 3.5%. And I think November, when I reported it out to you guys, I downgraded that forecast to 3.25%. Based on this information, what you see in the proposed budget will likely be even lower, probably down to 3% or even 2.75% based on this data. And then, of course, subsequent years will also have to decrease to reflect that. Just, you know, again, at our current revenue collection, each quarter percent is about $210,000 in annual revenue. And, you know, I don't see, we're just not seeing the construction starts that we need to boost our AV. Interest rates have not fallen. There's lots of concern and uncertainty with the economy. So not feeling super bullish about what our AV growth rate should be in the next forecast or the next fiscal year. So, okay. Yeah, I think that's it for my update. Unless there's any questions on the financial report or anything else.
Anybody have any questions, comments for Marty? Okay. Thank you, Marty. Next up, Office of Emergency Services, Assistant Chief Dan Wheeler.
Perfect. Thank you, President Hawes, members of the board. I wish I could bring some great financial news to the board meeting after hearing all this stuff with PERS and everything, but Blue Heron, we'll start with that. So Blue Heron is, let's say, is still somewhat of an active incident. It started at the end of January. We've talked about it a lot, seen a lot of social media, a lot in the news. We have, and like Chief Stewart said, we just wrapped up with an AR today. Demolition is starting to take place right now, and they have a schedule of buildings that are going to come down. I just want to kind of hit the highlights of this, that though there were some ups and downs of initial attack, extended operational periods, public information, crisis, a lot of a very visual incident for the organization, right on the falls, right on the Willamette River, just below the bluff, right on the highway, right on the railroad tracks. You can, right on 205, the hill of Westland looking over, you can have put together a better story with this. So where the organization is coming, I always go back to where we were in 2020, when we were just kind of running around, just trying to figure out how we're gonna handle these major emergencies. When you're overwhelmed in this one, we kind of put a bow on it today with that. I think we were pretty well polished, with being able to handle these things. We established an incident management team early on. 4.5 hours into the incident, we had a cooperators meeting with I believe it was 47 different cooperators on the meeting. 47 different people from all the cooperators around. So we're very well organized, and we're improving on every one of these major incidents we go on. Though this one was a little bit interesting because it took a lot of personnel to manage the PR crisis, which isn't normally what we do. Yeah, really interesting. So hopefully these buildings get torn down safely, and our crews hopefully no longer have to go out there. We were out there about 3 or 4 days ago. Still put 2 engines worth of water on a flare up. When the sun hits right and it dries out, there's a black column of smoke. There's another section of the roof is burning that we can't get underneath to put out. So moving on, Mark did hit Academy 2501, we're at 14 people. Right now, they're just a couple weeks in, and looking forward to them hitting the line to help fulfill the levy staffing. Crew 30 update. Chief Olson, myself, and our wildland captain, Ron Schmidt, we went down and met with ODF leadership last month. We went down there and just kind of did an annual recap. Chief Olson did a great job of briefing them on the capacities of the crew, where we're going this year, recapping our relationship last year with the Oregon Department of Forestry. And it was very clear that, very evident with their leadership, that we're beyond the pilot phase of our collaboration with ODF, that we're just into moving on to doing business, which is super, super positive. We had a good hour conversation with them. Chief Olson's been doing a great job. We did have a few opportunities that came up this year. We took one of our oldest Type 6 brush trucks that was replaced with our OSFM rig out of Station 11. We reassigned that to the crew. And on top of that, they were able, with the funding from last year, to purchase a side-by-side that they just took possession of last week. So with the Type 2 initial attack crew, one of the benefits of them is that they get a divide when they get to an incident. So instead of just having 20 people stick together, they can divide into modules, and now they have greater capability, which greater serves our relationship with ODF. And is just a lot more flexible. So a lot of great work by Wildland Division in the off season. Hitting on the EMS, Chief Huffman, he's really been putting a focus on the call reduction component. There's a couple things that I think maybe a few of you have kind of gotten wind of. But Clackamas County Sheriff's Office now has a behavioral health unit that is out on the streets now. Met them last week at the Happy Valley Traffic and Public Safety meeting. They did just a good orientation on really how they're in alignment with our chat program with our community paramedics. And they're kind of an extension of that from the police side to kind of help with the call reduction. And then CCOM is having a clinician that is going to join their staff, that is going to work in the evenings, that is tied to the CCSO behavioral health unit. So they're looking to just expand coverage. I thought it was really interesting because my question to them is, are we all in the same lane? Are we all have the same mission? And the answer is yes. So really trying to work through getting people the right care on incidents. So super positive. And then the last thing that I want to hit, Rescue 301 information or just data. So we have 2 good months of data from Rescue 301. I'll just run through some numbers here because it's pretty interesting on the effects of the single unit. 41% of the calls that they went on were EMS assist calls, where they just assisted an EMS crew or an ambulance. 14% of the calls, they were canceled en route. 19% of the calls, they were recalled by AMR. And 13% were actually logged in as true EMS calls where they did full charts and treated patients. So you look at those numbers and how it affects our heavy assets. Engine 301, this is February comparison. Last February, they're the busiest unit in the fire district, and now they're the 9th. Heavy Rescue 305 was the 2nd busiest, and now they're the 7th. Truck 304 was the 4th busiest, and now they're the 6th. So that's just a comparison from February last year to February this year.
Who's 1, 2, and 3 now?
What's that?
Who's 1, 2, and 3 now?
I can look here, let me get, well, Rescue 301 is, yeah, obviously your front runner. And then
Engine 322s.
Engine 322 Gladstone popped up as the busiest engine company.
Okay.
Yep. Yep. Yeah, and then the overall number, so the total time dispatched to clear for combined for January and February is 172 hours. An average of about 15 minutes per call. So we've been able to keep the heavy assets or to keep 172 hours off those rigs. And also keep that availability, of course. So really interesting on the data that Rescue 301's pulling. And then I guess the next conversation is the calls that they are going on, that they're not doing anything, how we address those calls. So I think that we just get into deeper layers of the call reduction and you know, the right rig on the right call. So this has been really good. So that kind of wraps up my report. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
What kind of clinician at Seacom?
It is a behavioral health clinician.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, and that was, I just learned that the other day through the sheriff's office. And actually, the same day I had a meeting with Seacom and they announced it. And then that evening, the sheriff's office announced it as well. So I'm not sure where their funding is coming from on that one. But they're all, so between Bill Conway's division, Bill Clackamas County, the community paramedic there, and then our 2 chat units. And now we have a CCSO behavioral health unit, which is a behavioral health specialist with a background in that, and then a deputy. So they're actually on the street, they respond to 911 calls and all that, and then they can actually, they kind of serve the same purpose that our rescue does. They can go handle calls that might tie up a police officer for a long period of time because of behavioral health issues, and then they can release that asset.
It sounds like they also would cover calls that Clackamas Fire might run.
It is, that's where I think it gets interesting. Yeah. Yep.
I have a question.
Yeah, you bet.
Dan, I received a copy of your letter to third parties terminating the sponsorship.
Yep.
By the district as of June 30th, and I would like you to kind of flesh out a little about why that is occurring.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, the question is referencing the fire district's decision to no longer be a sponsoring agency for CERT. So the background with CERT is that they're mainly organized through OEM, and they run under they kind of run under the umbrella of OEM, and the sponsoring agency component has to be a government agency or a special district, or it just can't be a business or anything. It has to be an affiliation through a government agency. So with that, you find your local fire departments, you have, it could be a water district, it could be a city of Milwaukee, city of Happy Valley, city of Oregon City. So with that, we brought them in, and I forget the exact year, but I want to say it was 2014-ish. I have all the data that I could pull up, but we took them on under the umbrella of the Volunteer Association, so they could be covered under workers' compensation. And so with that, every time that they go do a drill, or they are deployed to an incident, if that was to happen, that they have to get permission through us, which therefore covers them under the workers' compensation, which allows them to go out there and do the business that they do. CERT does a lot of education in the community, and they don't do, they have very little opportunity to help out in major emergencies. So since I got into the position in roughly 2020, and we had major incidents of the ice storm, the 2020 wildfires, we had the Milo McIver incident, we had evacuation orders, we had a handful of things that came up, and it never once was on our radar to get CERT involved, because we're in the initial attack, extended attack. And what really came to be, Marilyn, is that the realization that we couldn't utilize them to what the capacity that they want to be utilized for, or that they've trained for. And it fell outside of, it really fell outside of the initial response, which is our core business. So I held up our core business of the fire district and what it is that we do. And And our job is to handle major emergencies, to communicate well with the public, handle back staff, the response reliability, all these things that are within our strategic goals or in our organizational priorities. And CERT never hit that because they're so far down the road that we would never have capacity to get there. So I reached out to Clackamas County. I reached out to the sheriff's office. I reached out to staff with Happy Valley. I did research with OEM, and I really did a good 360 of our organization and where it belongs. And ultimately, our community here being the kind of the metro area, we don't really have a place where, because of our infrastructure and what Clackamas Fire already provides, we don't necessarily have the need like a rural community would have. Hoodland Fire utilizes them, but they're very rural. Canby Fire utilizes them, but they're a lot more rural than we are. And so I couldn't compare those to what we have. We have the infrastructure, we have our core business that we do, and we handle things well. And we also have a really good relationship with Clackamas County disaster management, where they handle all of the things that come up on our list during the initial attack phase. So with that, it came down to a core business component. And while kind of back as a comparison here to some of the conversations about what we're going to do with our time and our funding as a special district, I did not feel that CERT fell within the core business of the district, and that can be better allocated somewhere else. I do value, and our fire district does value tremendously, the amount of hours that our volunteers put together and donate to the community. And, we have a representative here that can attest to that. We put a lot of time into our volunteers as suppression volunteers and support volunteers. And I believe that there's resources that can better facilitate the level to which CERT can participate in. So since then, we have met with the city of Milwaukee. They brought in their finance director, I believe a risk management component, their emergency manager, and they did a full 360 of our CERT program and are entertaining the concept of taking on about 40 members of the Milwaukee CERT to keep them within the community. So that ultimately is it. We're really trying to focus, Marilyn, on our core business and where we put our time and effort and the utilization of our efforts. And even during our busiest times, we just couldn't utilize them. And so for that reason, I made the recommendation to our command staff and to the executive members of the board that to discontinue the sponsorship. And so with that, they can move sponsorship to another government, local government agency. And then there's some assets that are tied to it that Clackamas County Disaster Management will help transfer over. So their education components, things that were funded through a UASC grant, are all things that we can transfer over. So that's the path that we're going. And I asked them to start looking into where their new sponsorship would be, and said that we would like to align it with our fiscal year and by June 30th.
So I didn't hear a financial tag on how much they cost us.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So it is not necessarily a major financial impact. There is a workers' comp, and I believe I could pull up the email, but I believe there's finance had pulled up from, I don't want to misquote this, so I'm not even going to say it, but they pulled up a rate on their equivalent to our workers' compensation for our volunteers. And so they put them in that category. The time and the money gets down to Ryan Krugero is the volunteer coordinator, is the one that is ultimately managing them right now. And it's not a huge impact. It's less than $10,000 a year of minus the total cost. It depends, because it's the numbers that fluctuate, but minus a workers' compensation component. But there's hours on it, and then ultimately it's is it our core business, and it is something that the fire district wants to continue to put or leave that opportunity open for them when we don't utilize them. So what I'm trying to do, Marilyn, is get them in a spot to be better utilized in the community, because I don't feel that Clackamas Fire, it's a capacity component and it's a core business component. And I really want to get them in a position where they feel valued and are utilized in their community, and for them to work down at the city level or a more, in a smaller group. That's what they were designed to do in the first place. And, yeah, so there's just not a huge financial benefit to it, but more of the core business, and I want to get them utilized to have them feel value and to participate in the community, and there's better options out there than a fire district.
Well, people I've talked to really do not feel valued by Clackamas at this juncture, having been terminated after a 20-year relationship by email. So, it's not a good look.
20-year,
Yeah.
Oh, at least 20.
20 years that we've
Well,
oversaw
it's
served.
14, so.
2014, and it's actually 2017.
Yes,
But,
was the date,
sure
so.
it existed long before that. I don't know what the true sponsorship, but.
Yeah, it
okay,
was
so let's
under
go with
multiple
14.
different.
We're talking 10 years.
Right.
So
Well,
we
it's-
have, and would you terminate an employee by email that had been with us any period of time, including 10 years?
Yeah, and Marilyn, I can walk you through that. I reached out to the cities. The first thing I did was reach out to the cities and those that were involved in Oregon City, Happy Valley, Milwaukee, Oak Lodge Water District, and the people that they would, and the communities that they served. And then the first person that I reached out to, or the only person I reached out to via phone before setting it was Jack Tans, who's been a long time member of the community in Milwaukee with their CERT, and is a volunteer with us, and was able to walk him through the whole process and my thought process behind it. And then when I sent out the email, I knew that I only sent out specifically to the leaders. Jack and I worked on a full inclusive list of those that are kind of running the CERT, kind of the go-to people in those areas. So I specifically targeted them, having it sit, and then we're gonna come back with a meeting where we can actually discuss it. I've already had some feedback or an email from one of the individuals that has more specific questions, and I'm anxious to answer those questions for them, because I know that it wasn't a very popular decision from the lens of maybe some of the board members or some of the community members or even those that may be asked to take on the sponsorship. But I had to start somewhere, and so I felt like I did a good job of reaching out to those stakeholders in the community, letting them know this is what I was doing. I had some really good insight from the sheriff's office, some really good insight from the city of Milwaukee, some recommendations, and ultimately, I'm gonna stand by where I think long-term, the better solution is for them to be in their community and tied exactly to those communities, so they can best assess that. We're emergency response. That is, we're so tied to the initial incident. By us just managing their training and some logistics, they need to have a reason to do it all, and that is getting out in the community and doing things. So that avenue doesn't exist with us. It exists somewhere outside of the fire district.
And Marilyn, if I may, because I understand what you're saying, right? And it's about communication and feeling valued. But in fairness, the individuals that have been heavily involved in CERT knew there was communication with them of trying to find them an avenue to go to. I made direct contacts with regional CERT members. Dan did as well. So this isn't like this has been out of the blue. They've been involved. They knew that we were trying to find them a home. We asked them to help engage in the process as well. And our first step was we went to the executive committee within the board to walk through this decision-making process. And so I would love if there's somebody that does not feel valued or appreciated, that we know who they are, so we can circle back, because that's the last thing we want, is for somebody to not feel valued or appreciated for what they've done. But we've reached out. We reached out before all of this, and we engaged all the key players with this before we made the decision. What you got was the the final decision of the separation of the fire district. So, but I would love just to, offline, if you just go direct with me if we can, so we can contact those individuals that are feeling not appreciated, because that's just not the simple reality. We're trying to get them to where they can thrive and feel appreciated and feel like what they're doing is valued. And it's just not with the emergency response fire department. We want to get them where they can be utilized in the support role, which they were created to do. And there's a lot of different avenues for them. It's just not within the emergency side of it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is Andrew online?
Yes.
There he is. Next up, we have professional firefighters of local 1159, Vice President Andrew Gordian. Hi, Andrew.
Hi, evening, Mr. President, members of the board, just a quick update. I'll second what the fire chief said. Congrats to Captain Clay Buford on his retirement. The other piece is that earlier this month, 3 of members of Local 1159 attended the IAFF Legislative Conference in Washington, D.C., alongside members from Portland Local 43 and Tualatin Valley Local 1660. This annual event brings together firefighters from across the country to engage directly with federal lawmakers and advocate for legislation that supports fire service professionals and public safety. So our delegation met with Oregon's congressional representatives and we discussed key priorities. Some of those were support for survivors of fallen public safety officers. So expanding the PSOB to cover cancer, occupational cancer. Another item was protecting firefighters' rights to free speech, and then developing next generation turnout gear free from PFAS. That's the harmful forever chemicals that are linked to cancer and other significant health risks. So we did all that lobbying. We also got to participate in legislative briefings and workshops focused on advocating for these and other initiatives with the state and national levels. That's all that I have. If you guys have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them.
Any questions or comments for Andrew? No, looks like you're good.
Thank you, Andrew.
Thanks for being here, Andrew. Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
Okay. Now our RNG Volunteer Association report. Volunteer President Johansson will now share an update from the Volunteer Association. Hi, Joe.
Thank you, Prophet Haas. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. February was a slow month for us. We had 12 total calls for all volunteer apparatus. The new recruits, we have 7 suppression balls and 2 support balls that we went through and had the graduation with. They have been scheduled and they are now responding and working on shifts. Training has continued to be superb with us. We appreciate Ryan and the training division scheduling us quality drills and having instructors come in, and all the little tips and tricks we get from everybody from the line that comes in and help us. We and I appreciate. So thank you. Upcoming in March, we're working towards wildland refreshers, getting ready for that season startup. And coming up in April, we have the Hawaiian Sportsman's Breakfast hosted at Station 71. That'll be Saturday, April 26th. And Chief Miller, thank you for describing and in more detail the CERT information. I appreciate that. And I just want to tell everybody and all my peers, thank you very much for selecting me as volunteer firefighter of the year. And that's everything you have tonight.
Strong.
Best, man. Good job.
Anybody have any questions or comments for
No,
Joe?
I just want to congratulate you on your award for the Volunteer of the Year.
Thank you very much.
Joe, I had to sneak out for personal reasons as soon as I did the Director's Award, but let me add my congratulations to that. I can't think of anybody that deserves it more than you do.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
Thanks
that.
for being a part of this organization.
Yes.
On
Thank
the
you.
26th, what time's that start?
I don't have the actual times yet. I just have our crew times to start. So as soon as I get that information, I will get that out to you guys.
Perfect.
Thanks, bro.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Correspondence. Imagine everybody read all that. We had some really nice letters. One from somebody in California. Sounds like our crew saved their house.
Yeah.
Another nice note from Senator Meek. and a whole lot from the community, so that's really outstanding. It's nice to see that. Do we have any informational items? No? Yeah. The next board of directors meeting will be on Monday, April 21st, 2025 at 5 p.m. We will be hybrid, with public invited to attend either by remote video conference or in person at Station 5, 9339 Southeast Causey Avenue, Happy Valley, Oregon, 97086. Regular board of directors meeting is now adjourned at 6:28 p.m. Everybody. Thanks for being here. How do we do, Lee?